everybody, this is Randall from Floribama Homesteader and my wife, Michelle, my belle. What we're doing today is we're getting ready to plan out our fall garden. I was thinking laying in bed this morning, I'm like, geez, it's hot. It's in the middle of summer right now. I was like, the next big thing is we've got fall vegetables coming up. We got so many projects. We're building a pergola, we're planning the gathering, and sometimes this stuff, all these projects, they just kind of they sneak up on while you're doing your projects. Something like getting your fall garden ready sneaks right up on you. And so what I want to do is I want to show you. I went straight out to my fall vegetable garden calculator, and this is something that I keep on hand and I have for several years. And you can find this at ufseeds.com, and I will put a link where I got this calculator. So basically, when you enter your first expected frost date, ignore the year. But when you put your first expected frost date in here, it calculates the time that you need to start your seeds, the time that you would direct sow seeds, and transplant seeds. Now, the reason you're seeing some of the data missing out of this is because some vegetables you don't start in trays. Some vegetables are best direct sown right into the garden. Some vegetables like Brussels sprouts, it's best to start those indoors and then plant them out once the temperature gets right. So it's kind of one of the things I want to go over is Brussels sprouts is a 100-day plant. Well, there's also a variety of Brussels sprouts that's a 200-day plant. So when they were doing this calculator, they were probably planning the calculation for the one that takes longer to mature, and that's why they have a start date of back in June in order to transplant your plants out in July. But down here in 7 or in zone 8B or in 8A, these plants would burn, slam up in July 18th weather. Transplanting those out in the gardens, they wouldn't stand a chance because temperatures right now here are 100 degrees with a heat index of 115 degrees, and these plants, they wouldn't stand a chance. So it's best to plant some of these in trays and get them started, and some of them have a mature date of like 50 days, like kohlrabi. Radishes are like 20-something days. And you don't start those in trays. You plant those straight into the garden and let them come up right in place where they're at. Carrots is another one that you don't transplant. And you've seen on the sheet here. You can go back and look at it. You can go on the spreadsheet yourself, and you can see what dates are missing. Those are the seeds that are best planted out in the garden, direct sow. So what we're doing out here this morning is we're getting ready to plant our broccoli. Our Brussels sprouts, and we got a couple of long kale, walking stick kale that came from Baker Creek, and our local seed store in Pensacola carries some of the Baker Creek stuff in a seed display, and I was able to pick those up there. So we're going to get the ones started that you can't direct sow out because of the heat, but they need a little jump because if you planted the seeds directly in the garden, once the heat breaks in September, then you don't have enough time to harvest that plant before a hard freeze gets here in late December, January in our zone. So we've got these reusable trays, and I've used these for years and years, and this is what I always start my spring and my fall vegetables in. We just put some potting mix in there. You're supposed to use a seed starting mix because it's finer and you don't end up with these big chunks of bark in here like this. But honestly, it really doesn't matter. The plants will still come up and they'll go in the garden just fine. We're only going to grow these up for about a few weeks, and once the heat breaks in the third week of September, we're probably going to be planting these out into the garden. So I'm not going to demonstrate planting these seeds today, but I just want to kind of go through everything and explain to you the seeds that we do start early, the seeds that we don't, and why. And also, if you look back at the calculator, Brussels sprouts. The reason we've decided, Michelle and I, sitting here talking, we're going to plant about 50 plants of Brussels sprouts, 54 of broccoli, 20 cauliflower simply because we don't eat as much cauliflower as we do broccoli and Brussels sprouts. And we figure we eat broccoli one time a year, or one time a week, and that's about a 1 pound serving. And so that number of plants will provide us 1 year of broccoli. Now sometimes things will happen, like we'll get an unexpected freeze, so we may not get such a big harvest, and we all have to come back in the spring and we'll have to do a spring planting. We generally don't like the taste of the spring vegetables. They don't do as well down here in the heat. Our brassica plants typically do better in the fall, so that's why we try to max out the best opportunity for a fall garden with our brassicas, because they just tend to do a lot better in the fall than they do in the spring. Okay, some of the other things that we're going to plant. We're going to end up planting carrots. We're going to end up planting just regular kale. Our onions, we'll be starting our onions in a seed plat, and I'll be doing another video on that. I did one in the past, and so you can be looking forward to the onion video that I'm going to redo and do a follow-up on that. Beets, direct sow right in the garden. Lettuce, direct sow. Spinach, direct sow. Turnips, direct sow. If you're going to do collards, you may want to start those early. You can direct sow those, but I think collards tend to do better whenever you transplant those out in the garden. And then regular greens like mustard greens, turnip greens, any kind of fresh greens like that. Those are best direct sown out in the garden. Kohlrabi is a direct sow plant. All right, so we're going to get busy here. We're going to start dropping seeds in, and there's lots of videos out on the internet showing people dropping seeds in the plat. So I'm not going to really bore you with that. Basically, all I did was I took a pencil and I just dibbled a little hole about 1/8 of an inch down, which is barely just disturbing the soil, and I just dropped 1 seed per hole until everything is planted. If you get 2 seeds in there, 3 seeds, the hardest thing in the world to do is to come back and can out seed. But if you get 3 seed that come up in a tray, make it a point. You're doing yourself a favor, you're doing your transplants a favor. If you come back and you select the strongest plant out of that one transplant and just pinch off those other 2 little plants. Don't give yourself an opportunity to feel like you're going to get more for less. Because when you overcrowd your garden, it really just doesn't come out in your favor. That you'll just have 2 or 3 little weak plants that don't do as well. If you plant 1 plant in the recommended spacing with the proper amount of fertilizer, you generally do a lot better for yourself. So that's one of the things I want to discuss today and let you know what we're doing. This is the time of the year that if you want to go ahead and start getting fall vegetables ready, and you don't want to go out and you don't want to buy transplants, you need to be getting your seeds out, and you need to go ahead and start your transplants and get this stuff going. So at the 3rd week of September for our area, when it's time to plant out the fall garden, you're ready to go. Now when we finish out these plants, you're going to just lightly cover them over with the mix. We're going to make sure that the medium potting soil is nice and moist. We're going to put these outside. We're going to put them in the shade. You do not want direct sun on these plants right now. It will kill them, it'll scorch them, and your transplant attempt will fail. So put these out in somewhere where they can get the nice hot heat that's going on right now. Get them sprouted, get them coming up, but keep them out of the direct sun. You don't want direct sun on these. Now, when it gets later on, about 2 weeks before you're ready to start planting these out, in September, move them out into a partial sun, so they get just maybe an hour or 2 of morning sun, but you still don't want to run the risk of burning those transplants up. You want to give them the best opportunity that they can. So get them up, get them strong. Make sure that you also, very important, when you plant transplants, don't put it in a wind-free zone. Make sure that the wind can blow across them, because when the wind blows across those transplants, they move back and forth. That builds a thicker stalk on that transplant. If you put this into an environment where it doesn't have any wind blowing on it, you're going to get tall, spindly plants that are just reaching for the sun, and when you put them out in your garden, they just kind of fall over the first time a little breeze comes along. So make sure that you're keeping this thing out in the elements so that those plants are best adjusted to the climate that you're trying to get them started in. Okay, so that's all the tips that I got for you today, and I appreciate you for watching. If you find any information on this that is valuable, give us a thumbs up. If you're not a member of our channel, subscribe, hit your bell's notification for all. That way you get you'll get alerts anytime we publish a video. And thanks for watching.